Hi, my name is Mark Smith, and I will be your guide for the day. We'll cover everything from catching your horse, grooming, saddling, and going for your first ride. The horse right here I'm going to get is Chansey. You want to approach from the side of the horse, as they have blind spots directly in front of the horse and behind the horse. So you don't want to approach from there, and you might startle them. I'm going to go to this side. Put your hands around the head. Go through the nose band there. Come up some. You go through the loop. Make sure it's tight enough. And you want to go around the bottom of it to prevent it from slipping versus tying it at the top. And I just wrap it through here some, just so it's not flinging and hitting around the eye. Now, I ask you to walk with you some, and pick up the lead, making sure never to wrap it, because then you can get in danger of that. So always make sure it's just looped like that and not circled like that. I'm just gonna ask you to come with me. She gives, so I walk with her. Cover some grooming techniques, making sure we got everything and we're safe to ride. So as you can see, she's pretty dirty. It's important to make sure you clean everywhere that the saddle is going to be in contact with. So there's nothing left over that can itch your horse or scratch him while you're riding on it. So just clean all this up, get all this out of here. Making sure to get in where the girth is going to touch. Get those legs. Do a little feel test, make sure there's nothing left in there, that it's all smooth. We touch up the other side now. Again, just making sure there's nothing left over that can interfere with the saddle blanket. It's also a really good time to just check your horse over for any sores it might have, cuts, or anything that needs attention. Now I'm just going to cover a couple of tools we're going to use. This is a saddle blanket. It's always make sure you're on underneath the saddle. A good thing to do before you put the pad on is to just inspect it, make sure there's no burrs or anything. With different pads, if you use a felt or a wool, it's much more likely to get hay or anything that might pinch your horse while it's underneath. So just make sure to do a quick check there, nothing there. Putting it on there. You can see the shoulder is right here. You want the saddle to sit right behind the shoulder blade so as not to interfere with the horse's movement. Put this on over top. Make sure it's level on both sides. Now, I'm going to use a saddle. Don't leave me going anyway. Again, just make sure, check over everything. It's not going to fall off. Everything looks safe. Leather isn't broken. You want to place the saddle just behind the shoulder bars. When you feel in here, you can feel them. Unless it's a really chunky horse, it's a little harder to. Now, this is the girth. It's going to be going underneath the horse's belly here. Again, just double check that. Run your hand along. Make sure there's nothing prickly in there. It's going to be pinching your horse or cause irritation while you ride. Going over this side now. So, always make sure the front cinch is the one done up first. It's gonna stop a lot of wrecks from happening, because if you do that back cinch up, which is this here, then it's going to keep the saddle in place, but without keeping it like snug in place. So it's gonna get saddle roll, and it's just not a good situation to be in. I always like to face the horse, face this way when I'm beside the horse, for if that horse is to kick out, which all these horses, it should not happen. They've never had that happen. But if they kick, they will kick the back of your legs and just buckle it, instead of go like this and hitting the knee. So grab that cinch again, making sure it's nothing's in there. Come a little closer. So you want to go through it once, then back through again. So by doubling it like this, you're going to keep it in place much tighter, and it's not going to slip. So while you're riding, you don't have to worry about the cinch loosening. So you want to come down, across, back up through, and down again. Now, I don't tighten my cinches up right away. I just keep it snug so the saddle is set in place. And then when I get ready to ride again, I'll tighten it up then. Now this one here, a little chunky, but you want to snug it up, but you don't want it over tight, because that's going to be uncomfortable for the horse. The purpose of this is just to keep the saddle from coming up like that. So, just to touch on a couple parts of the saddle so we have some understanding before I ride. This is your stirrups. You're going to keep your feet in there. We'll make sure they're all adjusted. You can adjust them right in here, moving up and down. We have our seat, saddle horn. Now we're going to move on to our bridle. This is the head stall. This is our bit we're going to be putting in the horse's mouth. And these are our reins. Now, I'll only do this if I use split reins to put it across over the horse's neck. I won't do it with loop reins. Loop reins are when they're attached and it's just one big rope attached to both sides. The danger with doing that with loop reins is that if the horse is spooked, if it moves at all, and you drop the bridle, it could fall and get tangled in the horse's feet. So the good thing with split reins is that you can still grab it, but if anything, an emergency happens, and the horse needs to break away from you, it can without any harm. I'm going to ask her to drop her head some here. Now, I would normally, this horse I trust, but if you do not and you're not sure, you can always just do it up again here so you still have control over your horse. Now if it's a really flighty horse and it's going to run away, I might not do that because you can run into dangers here too. So when putting on the bridle, it's just going to understand where everything's going. It's going to sit like this on your horse's mouth. I'm going to ask her to bring her head around here. I'm going to reach over here. I'm going to put the bit underneath her mouth and come up here like this. Put my hand in here. Ask her. And if she's not opening, I'll put my thumb in her mouth right in there. And that will get her to open her mouth some. Now, the horse is head shy for 3 reasons. It doesn't want to accept the bit, correction, for 4 reasons. Its mouth being poorly handled, his eyes his ears, or mentally he does something has affected him. He's learned that it's a bad thing to be handled in his head. So, with that being said, we want to make sure that we do handle his entire head carefully, so we're not hitting his eyes when we put the bridle on, we're not hurting his ears or jamming his mouth. Now we're gonna do this up. The purpose of the throat latch is just to keep the bridle in place so it doesn't fall off. So I keep it, I don't snug it up, I keep a hand, I'm not gonna be able to do that tighter. Right there. Still pretty loose, but it's not so loose that you can get a foot caught in there and it's still gonna do its job. Make sure your reins are where they're supposed to be. Now this here, for the tightness of the bridle, you want to look in the horse's mouth right here. I do one wrinkle, maybe not even one, but I don't want it too loose that it's going to be banging on the horse's mouth. In here, on the gums, there's no teeth, and there's a perfect spot for where the bridle will sit. So you want it to sit right in there. And if it's too tight, it's going to be causing the horse pain and stretching them back. Versus if it's too loose, or just loose enough, the horse will learn to pick that bit up and keep it in its mouth and carry it properly. Okay, so now that we're ready to ride, I'm just going to walk around some. I like to walk my horses a couple steps, even if it's minimal, or we can do some groundwork before we ride. I just like to see that saddle is in its place, it's fitted where it's supposed to be. There's not anything I missed, and the horse isn't spooking. We know it's all safe to go. So I'm going to tighten it up some here, just by pulling in. Get a hand in there, make sure it's not too tight. When I'm done with that, I'm going to loop it back up in here. So, remembering when we're riding, I'll demonstrate when I'm on the horse better. But just before we get on, you want to, when getting on, you want to make sure you keep the reins in your hand so that you always have control. You want to grab, my horse here is kind of missing some of its mane, so it's harder to grab some mane here. Now, if it's a horse that moves a lot, I'll keep one rein shorter, so if it moves, I can move those hindquarters over and get that horse to stop. Coming up here, up, and over. You want to make sure your feet are in nice. Move around a little bit, make sure the saddle's fitting you. Now, longer trail rides, you may want your stirrups a little longer. It's going to give you more comfort in the saddle. If you're doing a lot more, if it's a faster trail ride, you might want them a little shorter so you have more, I want to say, agility in the saddle or quicker reaction. Your feet aren't strung out as much. You have more support in them. So to turn, we're going to use our reins. Just pick that rein up and ask her to move. She moves, I release. That's how she knows she did the right thing. So again, to this side, using that rein, release. So to get a horse to back up or stop, I'll walk around and show you. So you want to say whoa, ask with your seat, and pull. What I mean ask with your seat is you're going to relax your back and sink your butt in. I'll demonstrate this. Sink your butt in, and that is going to put, your horse will learn that every time you ask with your seat, and you stop at the same time, they'll put the two together. Or you just pick up on your rein and pull back and ask with that. Another good way, more of an emergency stop if you need it, is to ask them to disengage the hindquarters. So I'm going to pick up and just there, to disengage. And that is, I think you're set for your ride. One other thing to touch about, asking your horse to move. You're going to use your legs, so apply pressure with both legs evenly, and when the horse moves, you release. So your horse knows to do the right thing. If you want to speed up, then speed up, just apply, ask more pressure. After the stop. Hope you enjoy your ride for the day.